peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us. It is 11 a.m. here in Nairobi, East African time. The show is The People's Court, and on this show, since is it Tuesday, we've been dedicating ourselves into looking into the issues on Monday, since Monday, the issues and the content of the BBI, the abridged version that was made available to the public. So we've been taking it upon ourselves to just take us through some of the items so that we get to really understand what is in the content there of BBI outside of the noise that we've been hearing from the political class. And then when it comes to a time where we are supposed to be voting, as we have seen, the referendum has been projected that it might happen in June next year, then you will know exactly what you'll be voting for, whether you decide to vote yes or no. You will have the information to make that decision. So that is what you'll be doing here. So joining me to have this conversation is Professor Jared Onyeri. Professor, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to Miriam and our viewers.
And of course, I don't know if we have Daniel Wesonga on the other end. Daniel, good morning. All right, Daniel will be joining us shortly, and together with Javen there. And today, one of the marquee, topics that Kenyans really know that we must talk about, and that is corruption. And we've seen how corruption has ravaged the economy of this country, and how much money that is meant to be going to the public hospitals, the public schools, the infrastructure, the building of the counties, where that money is being channeled for other things through corrupt deals. And in the recent past, you've seen, governors being taken to court together with their families and other leaders, because now corruption has not just become an individual, venture. It has now become like a family enterprise. If I am a governor, I'll ensure that even my children, are part of the theft syndicate there of public money. So it has been quite a shameful thing that we've been seeing in our courts. But yes, corruption is another pandemic that Kenya has to talk about and Kenya has to deal with, and that's why the BBI captured that. So we will see what the BBI is saying, what the people of Kenya suggested, and how they would want for the changes they would want against the fight on corruption. And of course, financial abuse, corruption, fraud have long plagued Kenya, hampering development. We already know that, with many politicians and ordinary Kenyans engaging in those vices. Taming the vice has been a headache for President Uhuru Kenyatta since he took office in 2013. Of course, some politicians have, however, insisted that the war on corruption is just a theatrics and perhaps targeting them. But we know it's not only politicians who have been involved in corruption, even just the ordinary Kenyans. We've worked in fueling this pandemic in this country. So on 23rd January 2020, Kenya obtained a score of 28 out of 100 in the Global Corruption Perceptions Index, and released by Transparency International, a score which is below the global average of 43 and the Sub-Saharan Africa average score of 32. So since 2012, Kenya has scored between 25 and 28 out of 100, having recorded a score of 27 in 2018, depicting slow progress in the fight against corruption. In the rankings, the country was listed at position 137 out of 180 countries and territories assessed. Before I even go further, Professor, when you look at these statistics, especially from the Transparency International there, Kenya sits at number 137 out of 100 countries and territories assessed when it comes to corruption. That is not a very good number.
Miriam, there's no doubt that corruption in this country is a cancer, is a pandemic. Every other year when we see the Auditor General's report, Miriam, we see a lot of questions. And Miriam, almost a third of our budget is taken by corruption, Miriam. There is no sector in this country when you go to the county government, you go anywhere, even some of the projects which are being started in this country, Miriam, be it the dams, be it the Kurana irrigation project, Miriam, we read money disappearing. Even the latest comes from Miriam. So with those kind of numbers, Miriam, in fact, that the number we have been given 1.7 is better than what we should be. We should be topping from bottom, Miriam.
You're saying we even at the 137.
When I look at the magnitude, the other day the PS for water and irrigation was being interviewed, and Miriam, he could not answer how the money has disappeared and has been paid and the project has not taken off. Miriam, when we talk about Kimorera and around dam project, Miriam, there is no dam and the money has been paid. A while ago, I was telling you that when you go to Kemsa, Miriam, there are a lot of goods, masks, PPE, which are there. And more than 2 billion Miriam has disappeared. Mm-hmm. So what can you which number can you be given, Miriam? Surely.
137. Or you think that is too lenient? All right. I think it's a very sad situation in the country, but as a professor there has rightfully said it, yeah, corruption is a problem in this country. Daniel, I don't know if Daniel has been able to join us yet. Daniel, good morning, if you can hear me. Okay, Daniel will be joining us there in a short while. So now, before we get into what is on the BBI, the proposals made to the steering committee there, what Kenyans thought about corruption and how they want it fought. This is where we should understand, perhaps we lay a premise on why the fight against corruption is perhaps the biggest and most important fight. President Uhuru Kenyatta, if he can win this fight, and then he'll leave Kenya at a very much better place. Of course, outside of his main goal of uniting Kenyans, if he can do that and succeed, and also fight corruption relentless and win this war, then he will have set us up for a wonderful Kenya in the coming years, and the next generations will really enjoy the beauty of this country that some of us has been robbed, because of the corrupt, the level of corruption that is going on in this country. And so there has been some corruption in the recent days. And Professor, that you've mentioned, the KEMSA scandal that we still have. And the story was actually on page 6 of the Daily Nation today. So let's just go to that, because that is something that is, Kenyans are aware of what is happening right now. So they can understand, because this is something that is ongoing. I think the investigations is ongoing. So let's just see. It was one of the latest mega scandals that we've seen in corruption we've seen in the country, and then we shall look at others, and perhaps we'll all understand why it is important, why the fight against corruption is quite important, and perhaps why it was captured in the BBI report. Now, COVID-19 continues to wreak havoc in schools, even as government maintains it will not shut them down. Yesterday, that is for the schools, but corruption next there. As COVID-19 numbers continue to increase, with health workers bearing the brunt for lack of personal protective gear, items worth billions of shillings are wasting away at the leading drug suppliers' stores. Recently, nurses at the Nakuru Level 5 hospitals protested due to lack of PPE, yet investigations at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, have stopped the distribution of COVID-19 items worth 6.3 billion Kenya shillings. The nation has learned that the items will stay in the warehouse until investigations are complete. The agency therefore risks holding the stock to expiry. And then all the documents were taken, including for procurement, and there is no way we can continue with procurement and tenders to the counties unless the process is complete, says a KEMSA official who sought anonymity since he is not allowed to speak to the media. He told the nation that since President announced that all tenders will be conducted online and the portal being inactive, the agency cannot open tenders for the items to be procured. It will take time before the items will finally be dispatched, said the source, due to the scandals that surrounded the procurement of COVID-19 items at the drug supplier. The payment for the items and the distribution was stopped. So what we see is these things that are badly needed, especially right now that the COVID cases have gone up in the country, what 6.3 billion Kenya shillings are being held, in store there by KEMSA, by the government, or investigative agencies have said you cannot issue these things because they're still investigating there. But the worry there, this stock might be held, and by the time it will be released to the public, they would have expired. So, I mean, how do you win this? Is there a way that the Kenyan public can win? Can win this corruption?
Look at that, being very sincere.
Can we win in this corruption?
To assist people fight coronavirus. And cases in the Kenyan courts can take 3 to 4, 10 years, Miriam.
Especially for corruption, yes.
Who has it helped now, Miriam? Even if we are going to send someone to jail, who has it helped, Miriam? And you know very well, Miriam, sometimes I don't understand how the government works because I'm not part of it. Some of the payment, Miriam, has not been made. Mm-hmm. So it is either you terminate that contract and tell the suppliers to return their goods, or, Miriam, the suppliers agree to do what? To supply at the market price. So they get their money and the government uses those equipment. Mm-hmm. But now they are being held. Coronavirus is ravaging the country. Mm-hmm. Whom is it helping? Mm-hmm. So it means, Miriam, from where I sit, I can say there's no commitment to fighting this kind of corruption. Mm-hmm. And Miriam, when you tell me this kind of investigation, what kind of investigation are you talking about, Miriam? If you were given single sourcing and you supplied at the price which is not recommendable, and the other channel as well say that you have not followed the rules, Miriam.
That is quite outright.
Miriam, if I become a judge, I will send people to jail one day. From morning to evening, I'll finish the case. Wow. What evidence again, Miriam, do you need? Did you comply with the law? What does the law says? Mm-hmm. So, Miriam, from where even some of these companies, Miriam, which were registered yesterday, how do you give those companies? Which history do you have about those companies, Miriam? Mm-hmm. How? So, Miriam, from where I sit, there's more of non-commitment of fighting this kind of corruption. Mm-hmm. But those equipments, Miriam, from where I sit, they belong to the people of Kenya and must be taken so that they go and assist us fight this coronavirus, Miriam.
All right, very well. And before
and next, if your car gets an accident and you take it to the court to police and they become an expert, you will not use your cars for almost 5 years, Miriam. So you rather say, I don't want that case, let me just have my car and continue enjoying with my using the service of my car. And when we are going to go to BBI, you are going to see the recommendations which Kenyans are giving. Mm-hmm. Cases in court take ages. You had one day the president akisema sasa mnataka nifanye nini? A whole president of a country with the executive powers saying afanye nini, because the wheel of justice in our judiciary is moving very slow, and it's very discouraging. Mm-hmm.
All right, very well. So these are just some of the top scandals that we've seen in the recent times in the country. The NCPB maize scandal that costed the taxpayers 1.9 billion Kenya shillings was lost in that scandal. The first National Youth Service NYS scandal, and Kenyans lost 791 million Kenya shillings, and the second National Youth Service scandal where Kenyans lost 9 billion Kenya shillings. The Afya House scandal where the country lost 5 billion Kenya shillings. And Galana and Moya irrigation scheme scandal where we lost about 3.5 billion Kenya shillings. Evans Kidero Foundation scandal that consumed about 2.7 billion Kenya shillings. The Chicken Gate scandal, 59 million Kenya shillings was lost. The Golden Bag scandal quite a while back where we lost about 100 billion Kenya shillings. And then the Anglo leasing, that is a little way back during the Golden Bag time. Where when KANU was still in power and was a government procurement facilitated scam in 1997, and the last Eurobond scandal that Kenya, we lost about 215 billion Kenya shillings. We have others, the laptop tender row, the Hustler Jet scandal, and others that we might not want to get into it. So when you hear those figures, Professor, that I'm reading there, they're in terms of a lot of money. And when you sit down and just close your eyes and think about what 10 billion can do to, say, the public, primary schools, say the health public facilities in the rural areas. Say the roads that connects, infrastructure that connects, farmers to the market and things like that. When you look at it from that angle, then Kenyans, we have a right to be very annoyed. I don't know why we're not annoyed enough when you hear such figures that are being lost through scandal. Have we become too complacent, or as you say, President Uhuru Kenyatta expresses frustration by the slow way this case is taken in court. And so maybe Kenyans also have been tired of that, or maybe the way these cases are handled. And so they've decided, you know what, as long as I have my meal for the day, that's it. I don't care about those billions and millions being lost there. Why are we not so annoyed over such money is being lost in the country?
I had once seen somebody fighting, some two men fighting, and a young child was there, around 3-4 years there. And I could see that kid carrying something to go and beat that person who was fighting his father, because the boy was agitated. He was irritated how someone can beat his father. Miriam, you want to say all those figures you are reading that Kenyans cannot get annoyed? And even when you are a presiding judge, people are dying. Children, there are some schools in this country, Miriam, where students and pupils are studying, are learning under tree. So Miriam, we need to get annoyed. Mm-hmm. And this is the very, very reason, Miriam, that I am very supportive of BBI. Because we are going to have those timelines that the case, when it comes to court, Miriam, proper investigation, within 6 months or a year, we have hammered you. You go and become quiet. Have you heard from Waruke? He has gone silent. Mm-hmm. This is how we want people to be silenced in this country, so that they even become very remorseful, Miriam. So, Miriam, unless the people of Kenya take action, I sometimes see Kenyans trying to do mob justice to someone who has just tried to pickpocket, mm-hmm. or to snatch your phone. I have seen them. I don't know whether you have seen them, mob just how people come charging. I want the people of Kenya, if our judiciary and our action is not being taken, let people take charge, so that people will fear. Because Kenyans will start asking, where have you gotten this? Where have you gotten this? They will sob up. Money, we will not have money disappearing from the county government, money disappearing from CDF, and then we take as business as usual. Corruption, Miriam, will destroy this country. Mm-hmm. And the sooner we start taking action, the better. And that's why we need to do a lot of justice to BBI, mm-hmm. and have timelines. Mm-hmm. You know, someone who steals billions and billions, Miriam, mm-hmm. you can't jail this person. You will only be a fool if you can be jailed. You can even go to that judge and tell him, Mr. Judge, I took this money. I don't know what I fear is to go to jail, have this 1 billion. Who will just do that? Mm-hmm. So long as we can have stiff measures and a quick delivery of judgment, that's what will save this country from corruption. Otherwise, we will continue singing and singing.
All right, and BBI does not want us to continue singing and singing instead. And even Kenyans, they gave their opinions on how they want the corruption to be handled moving forward effectively. So let's just go through what the BBI is proposing, and what Kenyans rather suggested during the process there. And it says the public recognize corruption as the principal threat to the existence and well-being of Kenya. First of all, that is very true. We agree with that. The overwhelming perception, yes, was that the vice, like an advanced cancer, because that is what it is actually when you look at it from that perspective, has undermined public trust in our institutions and shattered the hopes, dreams and aspirations of entire generations of Kenyans. So this is not a light matter at all, because our future, and our children's future and the future generations, is at stake if you don't deal with corruption. This is how serious this is. And consequently, Kenyans passionately recommended several measures to tackle graft cartels, including, so we'll just look at this point by point, Professor, and see what Kenyans suggested in that. And even as we wait for Javan to join there. I don't know if Daniel is ready here. Daniel, good morning. Not yet. All right. So the first one is a speedy prosecution and conclusion of cases involving corruption and criminal wastage of public resources. And so Kenyans were saying, and I think you've talked about this and we've been talking about this, these cases take way too long for them to be concluded in our courts. And, some of the judges, so I saw the Chief Justice respond to this, because this is something that has been brought even to him, and President Uhuru Kenyatta has been talking about it very, very loudly. And so the Chief Justice, they were at a certain meeting together, and the Chief Justice says, yes, I recognize some of these cases take way too long, but here is the problem. A lot of these cases, they bring a lot of documents that we have to go through, document by document. On top of that, they come with a lot of witnesses, and this, I think, has been a tactic for buying time. So you realize this case will go on and on and on and on because of the amount of, logistics involved. And so that's why, some of these cases take way too long. So does this really hold water, this argument hold water when it comes to the slowness you've seen the courts handle, the cases on graft, and of course Kenyans are concerned about the same?
Miriam, let me tell you how the memory of Kenyans. And wherever I liken our memory to the one of a Warthog and a crocodile saga, don't think that I'm belittling Kenyans. That's who we are. Once someone has been arrested, has been charged in court, you can see how Kenyans, we can talk about it. Once that person gets a bond, Kenyans are forgotten. You will never hear, they never follow. Even the media does not follow, it becomes compromised. It does not even update us how this case is going. Of course, corruption, when they want to report, you will get compromised and then you don't report. So Miriam, if we will have timelines, like a presidential election, Miriam, we talked about 14 days, and now Bbi is proposing 30 days. If we can have timelines in the constitution that cases to do with wastage of public resources and corruption, it dispensed with 1 year or 2 years, but I'm saying them recommending 2 years. I could have wished that it would become much. It is you are cleared of an offense. That is the way to go. Mm-hmm. But Miriam, a case taking 10 years, 20 years. We have had done cases, Miriam, taking even 40 years. Mm-hmm. Even those who were parties to the dispute,
mm-hmm.
they died.
True.
We have even had some cases even where these culprits die. So Miriam, in this is a very good recommendation. Mm-hmm. We need to have speedy. See, like the one for you talked about Kider. Mm-hmm. It's now going almost for 3 years, and he has not even commenced. You saw even the one for Waititi, the governor for Kiambu.
But it's been
we are going to test whether he was having COVID, whether he's not coming together, and these are going, Miriam. The one for the governor for Nairobi, Miriam, people dispute, I've not been given this kind of things. We are saying thorough investigation and watertight should be done. So when a case is being represented in court, we have got enough evidence, enough experts, and the case commences within a span of 1 year or 2 years, then we are able to send people to jail.
All right.
And recover the money which they have rooted.
Not just send them to jail, but recover also all that money, if we can, as a state there, asset recovery. Javan Karanja, good morning. I see you've joined us.
Good morning, Miriam. And today's topic is very interesting because corruption is a cancerous kind of thing that is affecting our nation.
Mm-hmm. And even Kenyans shared the same sentiments, so they were giving their opinions and how they're seeing corruption and how they would like to see corruption being fought, and some of the problems perhaps they have been seeing in the fight against corruption here in the country. They said, corruption is like cancer; it's eating up everything that is meant for the good of this country. So we are looking at it first, point by point. The submissions that Kenyans gave that has been outlined here by the BBI team, and we're looking at the abridged report of the BBI, the shortened version that was made available sometimes back last week. If you can get it, please, that would be nice, so that you're able to read for yourself and understand. So point number one of that submission, and the professor has answered that, is the speedy. Kenyans say they want a speedy prosecution and conclusion of cases involving corruption and criminal wastage of public resources, because these people are criminal.
They are, yes, they are. And Miriam, that is a very good move. And the BBI steering committee, if you look at it keenly, you'll see that it has some good things. And those 9 guiding principles ensure that this team has a guiding principles that will ensure that they deliver on the problems that have affected our nation since times in history. And when they are talking of corruption, I think this is something that we must deal with it head on, because corruption is something that is even railing our development agenda. It is even what is making our country even not to have kind of good leaders elected into position of leadership. It's what is making our electoral body not function. Therefore, corruption is the foundation of all the vices that we have in this nation. Therefore, if we deal with it once and for all, then that will be a very good curative measure that will ensure that this nation will move on forward well. And something else, Miriam.
Before something else, Karanja, before something else, Kenyans say, because I want us to go point by point, we are able to really look at this document the way it is. And the first point was, Kenyans are asking, the wheels of justice has been moving quite slow in the past. So can we have a speedy prosecution and conclusion of the cases involved in corruption? And so that is what Kenyans are saying, and your response to that would be?
Yeah, and that is exactly that. They share my own sentiments, and that is what I agree with.
Right.
That when you look at these cases, some of them have been taking times, and you find that maybe, for example, a governor was accused of corruption and so on. They take so long, even to a point that we go for the next general election, they elected to office, they serve, they end their term. Well, their first term in office corruption case is still pending in the court. And if we have a speedy kind of justice system that will ensure that all corruption cases are dealt with in the fastest way possible, then that will ensure that these guys will be dealt with even when they are still in office. Now look at the governor of Nairobi. We are hunting the corruption cases are hunting him when he is not in office. And this makes it difficult because we have another governor who might interfere with the files that maybe were alleged to have been corrupted. And that is something that we must deal with it head on and ensure that these things are dealt with once for all. Miriam, if we have a speedy corruption cases proceeding that will ensure that these people are held culpable, if they go to serve to go to serve in prison, let them do that. And if it's corporal punishment, I think we should make corruption a very tough thing in this nation, such that if you feel like you want to engage in such kind of briberies and corruption, you feel fear, you fear and you run away. Because if we make the severe punishment such that if you are found guilty of corruption, you'll be jailed. Apart from that, all the resources that you have gathered from the corruption deals, all of them to be taken back to the government, and to make sure that you are detained and you will not be given a chance in future to vie for any public office, then that will be a win in this case. And to ensure that if you are in office and you have these cases and you are found guilty, that seat should be left vacant as you serve and as you go to court. And I agree with what the Chief Justice Mombi, I think, what he did, that if you are found with corruption cases, step aside, let the investigation be done, and don't go back to that office. That is a milestone achievement in this war. and that is a good thing. And Miriam, something else that we must agree, if the slowness of these cases gives room for more complicated things, because if the process is slow, that is when these people get to the judges who are dealing with the cases to interfere with the witnesses, and some witnesses will even abandon the journey in midway, and that is not the thing that we want. Let it be dealt with when it's very hot. And Miriam, if you look at this country, if we talk like last time when we were talking of Kemsa scandals, and you see what happened, people are on it, and everywhere you go online, Facebook, Twitter, people are talking about it. And if those cases are dealt with them when they are very hot, then justice will be seen be done, and people will have trust in the bodies that deal with this corruption. But if we delay, now people have started fading that memories of Kemsa scandals, and if it will be brought back in future, people will not have that feeling that they had in the first place. That's why I agree that let them be dealt with very perpendicularly, and if you are found culpable of corruption, let that person in future to hold public office or any capacity of leadership in this entire nation or outside the country.
Yes, indeed. And I think we have that on our constitution. That will be chapter 6 of leadership and integrity. I think that is one of the most abused parts of the constitution we have. Nobody even cares about that. But if that at all will be, looked at and implemented, and it will be the standard by which we have our leaders in office, I think that will do Kenyans a lot of good. We go to the next point, according to what Kenyans submitted to the BBI team on how or what they want to see corruption, dealt with here in the country. And the number 2, or B, as it is numbered here, says stiffer sentences are punitive fines for all found culpable of corruption. And on this, because this is something that even we've talked about, and even Dr. He's not here today, but we talked about it. You find that somebody has stolen so much money, going into billions or millions of Kenyan shillings, and then the fine they're given is just so out of, a person steals like 100 million Kenya shillings, he's given a fine of, say, 1 million or even just a couple of thousands. So what Kenyans are saying now, we need stiffer sentences and punitive fines for all found culpable of corruption. So in other words, Kenyans want corruption to be made a very high-risk venture, that when you think about engaging in public theft, it is something that you have to think about so many times, because, the end of it, if the law catches up with you, it's not going to be easier for you. Professor.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, you're here. Okay. Let Professor take it. Now, let Professor take it, and then you'll come in, Daniel.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Miriam, I was even giving an example for on point number 1. Look at the chicken gates in UK. Those people who bribed the officials of IBC then. Miriam, they have served their sentence and they have gone back to their normal life. What about Oswago here in Kenya? They are just going round, imagine. So when we talk about the speed, whatever, that's what it means. In other jurisdictions like UK, someone has already served these sentences and has already paid the fine. That is the way we should be able to go, Miriam. Miriam, even on these stiffer sentences and punitive fines, Miriam, the first place, if we accuse you for having stolen 2 billion, that is the money which you are supposed to put as a fine. So that you don't even imagine of touching the money. What will happen if I'm caught?
You'll come for that house that you bought.
You steal billions and billions of money, then we tell you put 10 million. You remove the money which you have stolen, you put as a bail and bond, and then you use the same money, Miriam, to hire very expensive lawyers who will be taking us round and round. So we ensure that, I don't know what that kind of recommendation have been there, but that still means that if you have been accused of stealing.
So what would you like that, Professor? Perhaps this is what we should suggest if anybody's listening. Yes. Okay, we seem to be having a problem there. Professor, what will be your recommendation in terms of the stiffer and punitive, measures there? What would you recommend the court does? All right. We seem to have lost their professor. When he's able to come back, then he will respond to that. Daniel?
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And of course, the issue of corruption that not only bites into our moral, economic, and social fabric, but it robs the young people of this nation, a very progressive country, a flourishing economy, which is able to create employment for young people. And it even keeps at bay investors who would rather have come to invest here, because corruption serves as a disincentive to investment for foreigners who want to set up businesses. You remember at one point we had a particular event where it was reported that Aliko Dangote, the biggest cement manufacturer in Africa, wanted to set a cement processing plant here in Kenya. But when he suggested that he would want to offset the construction of the cement factory, he said that it is alleged that he encountered a lot of people who wanted kickbacks from various government departments, in that he was forced to take that project to Ethiopia. So that tells you that really the price of corruption is really, really harsh and brutal to the people of Kenya in terms of our economy. And that is why when taking up his second term, President Uhuru Kenyatta launched a very scathing attack on the war on corruption, and he's reiterated and said that on the war against corruption, he wouldn't even mind losing his closest allies, his closest friends and family. And therefore, we've seen him walking the talk by even sacking amongst senior government officials his own cabinet secretaries who've been involved in corruption scandals. And I think, Miriam, in the BBI report, that issue of corruption is wholesomely addressed. And we saw when concluding the Naivasha retreat, the BBI retreat, President Uhuru Kenyatta reduced even the timelines to 6 months, which makes sure that those who are accused of corruption are arraigned in court within the shortest time possible, and their cases are executed and evidence adequately provided, so that we don't waste time being bogged down in the push and pull that has always been there. And in the course of it, it is the taxpayer who have lost the money through the corruption syndicates.
Yes.
And the people who have been implicated have always walked out scot-free. And of course, you get there some analogy where someone steals 50 million or 100 million, and they are slapped with only a paltry 1 million or 500,000 bond. And a friend of mine once told me that in Kenya, what you have to do is you have to steal billions of shillings, money good enough to bribe a few lawyers here and there, corrupt a few judges here and there, and then the police and other law enforcement agencies. And before you know it, in the nick of time, you'll be outside enjoying your loot and out of government. And that is what has been happening before. However, we need to realize that with this new dispensation and with the leadership of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, things are changing, and therefore the war on corruption has received an upscale, and we've seen the kind of prosecutions that have been happening. Recently, we saw whatever happened.
Yes, and sorry, I still want you to continue, but on the second part of this, Kenyans suggested that there should be stiffer sentences and punitive fines for people found culpable of corruption. So on your own, looking at everything else that has been going on, and continuing with what you just said, Daniel, what could be your suggestions of stiffer sentences and punitive fines? What should this look like? Because now we're trying to offer solutions. I'm sure somebody's watching somewhere, but go ahead. What would you suggest this stiffer look like?
Yes. Yeah, first of all, we should make sure that any person who is implicated of corruption scandal is is incarcerated until their cases are heard and determined, so that these people do not have the window of opportunity to come out there and intimidate witnesses, interfere with the case, and poke holes in the judicial process that should be. And also, we should also look at these cases multilaterally, not only focusing on the individual who has stolen public money. Remember, this money isn't stolen physically in sacks and backpacks. It is stolen through our financial systems, like the commercial banks and other avenues that offer financial dispensations. So I believe if we can also look into it and have very punitive measures to those banks that work in cohorts with corrupt individuals to steal public money by revoking their licenses, arresting and arraigning in court top bank officials who are involved in such syndicates, then I believe it will be a multi-faced responsibility on the part of our society to handle corruption before it happens. And also, I believe one of the best recommendations to that is to ensure that we empower intelligence systems, we empower the whistleblowers, and make sure that we have in place Whistleblowers Protection Act, which guarantees members of this of the public service to come on board boldly and be able to report any incidences or maybe any suspicion of corruption scandal which is maybe yet to take place at their premise of work. So that, together with heavy fines like the one we saw being slapped on Major Waluke, Honorable Waluke rather, and Mrs. Wahungu, I believe we shall be able to curb the ghost of corruption and be able to impart integrity on our society.
All right, thank you so much, Karanja. As a deterrent, Kenyans, are saying let's have stiffer sentences and punitive measures, and this should act as a deterrent. When you think about engaging in corruption and then you think about what that price is, the price tag will be too much for you to even the thought of corruption passing your mind, and especially when it comes to public coffers, that will just have people back off. So what will be, your suggestion? These punitive fines and stiffer sentences, what do you think they should look like?
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. And I think that is what I call severe punishment, and in my first submission. And for me, I feel like if you're found culpable and there is enough evidence that so-and-so is culpable of scoffing public resources of a particular amount, people should be given a double amount as fine so that it will be difficult for them to pay that board. And if they will feel to go that route, then they have to sell their personal and private properties to raise that amount. And that will ensure that if you are found guilty of corruption, you not only lose the amount that you have stolen, but you will also lose the amount maybe that you have gained honestly. And that will make it hard even for other people to engage on such acts. And if you are found to be culpable of corruption, and like you saw what happened in the case of Governor Waititu and the allegations that was happening in Okodho Bando, where they are working in cahoots with their family members. It should ensure that such a family, it is locked up in jail for quite a period of time. And if they have any other properties, they should serve as a family, because what we saw, that was a very bad picture, because that is to mean that that particular governor is even training his younger children on the routes to steal. And if we hold such people culpable, then that continuity, that lineage of corruption will be held back in the jails, and they will have nowhere to expand their corruption's kind of skills. And also, I feel like they should even be given kind of a corporal punishment, where maybe if you're found culpable of corruption, you may be taken to a public place and you suffer some canes. You be caned with some electric whips, so that you get to understand what is happening. And that will work miraculously, because people will fear such kind of an embarrassment. Maybe you can be taken there with no clothes and you'll be whipped, like seriously. Then when you go back there in your cube in the prison, you will have a lesson to learn. And others who are outside here will see that kind of embarrassment, and nobody, Miriam, will feel and who will want to go through such kind of embarrassment in public places where we have cameras and so on, so that so and so will be known to be a corruption, and they will have that tag of a corruption-related kind of cases where they will go around. Even when you go to public places, you have your own kind of identification that when you enter a place, there is a signal that shouts that this person is corrupt. When you enter to a private entity, you have something that is connected, and it rings and it makes a lot of noise that so and so is corrupt, and that will ensure that people, even in public, in our public arenas, will be able to identify so and so is alleged to be corrupt. And if you are found to be corrupt and you happen to go in jail, let it be a kind of a life imprisonment, so that you don't come out here to continue and expanding your corruption kind of technology to the younger people and the other people, so that that lineage will be closed and closed forever. To me, that is what I feel is punitive measures and severe punishments combined with some corporal punishments that will work miraculously. Also, we need to have a kind of empowered intelligence and courts where they will be able to serve and to ensure that these cases are dealt with well. So we ensure that the office of the DPP and the other DCI and so on, they have enough resources to carry out their investigations, to carry out with their work of duty as is required by the law, and to ensure that they are well protected, so that they have enough money, so that they will not feel like also engaging in such kind of acts. And also we should have a clear kind of appointment. When you are appointing people to such offices, let's have people of higher integrity, people who are honest, and the people who are qualified to hold such big offices, and to also make our court independent and pure independence, and to make sure that they have good resources, and we have good judges who hold the highest reputable character when it comes to dealing with such cases. And that will ensure that as a country we wholesomely move forward. And also something else, maybe we should ensure that we teach our children the bad things that comes with corruption, and we ensure that even in our schools and the higher institution of learning, people are taught the setbacks of corruption. People are taught what corruption can do to a nation and how destructive it can be if not controlled. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Professor, I don't know if you're able to hear us. We had a problem with the signal earlier. You back? Okay, so we shall be waiting there for Professor. So another point there. Oh, you're back. Professor, sorry, we cut you short. Your signal had a problem there earlier as we were looking at the stiffer sentences and punitive fines that Kenyans said they should be applied. And I was just wondering what could be some of the suggestions in line with the punitive fines and stiffer sentences. And also, as you finish the point that you're making, the third point is protection of whistleblowers. So go ahead and address those.
Now that, Miriam, we are struggling to remove set sentence from our statutes. That's what I could have recommended. But since we are promoting human rights and we want to be in good books with the rest of the world, if you are involved with corruption, Miriam, you just go in for life. Yeah. So that the money you have stolen and when we have recovered, you just go inside to be the guest of the state for the rest of your life. This one perhaps will deter people, Miriam. Someone will think twice. Yeah. And on protection, so, Miriam, when it comes to management of public resources, let us try to be very, very, very tough on these guys, so that when you are in the public office serving people, you don't go there to enrich yourself. If you happen to enrich yourself, you know where you will spend the rest of your life if you are the road gets you.
You'll be a guest to the state there for the rest of your life.
And the money and some of the money we recover it back. In fact, Miriam, let me tell you, even the current laws that we have, Miriam, if we can have speed hearing and processing of cases, Miriam, it will deter people, Miriam. I'm telling you the truth. See what has been happening to the governors now. They have been told that you don't even smell near your office. It has rendered some of them with no work, except those who want to put a brave face that they have not stolen, but they don't just go to the public office, and it's going to be like that until 2022. So, Miriam, those are the kind of measures that I want to see in place in the fight against corruption.
Okay, thank you so much. So the third one is the protection of whistleblowers, and I think Daniel addressed that. So the fourth one, The Kenyans suggested aggressive recovery of stolen public resources. Daniel.
Miriam, that is a very, very quite progressive recommendation, because we have to make corruption quite unattractive and disincentivize the proceeds. We have to make sure that before someone thinks about stealing public money, they have to realize that the government of the day and the state agencies that watch over public resources will not allow them to benefit even a single coin out of it. And therefore, we have to make the recovery of any money or any property or assets which have been acquired through corrupt means to be quite vigorous and time effective, in that we are also able to recoup any proceeds, any profits which might have been earned through such dealings or maybe through such assets. So by making so, we make sure that people will not be so much attracted to the temptation of looting public money for their own selfish interests, because at the end of the day they're positioned to lose more through asset recovery and surrendering or freezing of the financial accounts that they hold with the various financial institutions. And that at the end of the day will deal a blow to those who are implicated in those corruption scandals. So to me, once we make it that way, that once you are implicated of stealing public money, your accounts are frozen, the money is recovered, and the assets are also recovered, including the profits, then I believe we shall make corruption unattractive. That is what we used to happen even in the medieval China. Whenever you are found to be corrupt, if you are a government official, you will pay for that money in 3 generations. It means that your children, your grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will pay for it. And they had even more brutal punitive measures. You were to be killed by 1,000 cats. I think today, in today's China, they even have a death penalty for the corrupt individuals who are found to be looting public coffers. And I think that is something we should be able to borrow from. We should send our legislators, our politicians, our top head of parastatals and cabinet ministers to China to be able to benchmark on how effective they have been able to combat and kick corruption out of their key government agencies and departments. I think that will be very progressive, Miriam.
All right. Daniel, one of the key things there that Kenya suggested to be done in the fight against corruption is to aggressive, recover of stolen public resources. And shortly, yes.
Yes, as I said earlier, Miriam, it is not only aggressive, they should not only focus on aggressive recovery of these property and resources, but also the profits that have been accruing to by virtue of them owning these resources or maybe investing such proceeds in some kind of ventures. Okay. So I think that would be a very, very ripe idea. And it will get away the notion that I just spoke about, where my friend was telling me, you just have to steal enough money that will enable you to bribe a few lawyers, judges, and maybe process here and there.
Right. Thank you so much, Javen.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Miriam. And there is something that you have talked of whistleblowers. And in this country, we happen to have some kind of funny whistleblowers who are whistleblowers, and we saw it happening to some guys who are implicated of corruption cases, and they end up being the main pivot in the corruption deals. And we need to make sure that we have the actual whistleblowers being rewarded, not people who are cooking things up there and they come out here telling us they are the whistleblowers in their own corruption cases. That will not work effectively. But I think whistleblowers, at the end of the day, they need to be empowered. And of that, having those money recovered, that is a very great thing, because if we have those money and we render these people cashless and they have nowhere to run into, all that money that they have stolen from their banks, they have stored in those banks, all of them to be frozen and taken back to the government. That will ensure that these people, they don't have money, they are not in public service, and that will ensure that when they go to jail, they'll go there as a common and ordinary citizen, and that will ensure that other people who have mind of having to engage in corruption, they will deter from it, and it will look something that is not attractive at all, and the people will fear engaging in such a kind of act. And we should also not look at the amount that they have stolen. We should also look at the amount they have made from that money, because some of them still and they engage in some kind of real estate businesses. We should also go there and shut down such businesses that were started from corruption proceedings, so that we make these things so punitive that anybody who thinks of venturing into that kind of area, they should be worried of their consequences, and that is what we mean by having such consequences, and that will be very good move. And also when these people, when their accounts are frozen, we don't see them in public eye. They disappear, because when you don't have that money, you will not be able to corrupt your voters. You will not be able to buy them a kind of maybe a wheelbarrow or a mkokoteni, so that you corrupt their mind and they feel like you're empowering them. That is something that is not quite fair, and we should make them suffer that kind of consequences. Because, Miriam, this corruption money is what is used to bribe voters in the voting days and during the campaign. Therefore, if they don't have this money and we deter them from vying in public offices, then we'll have people who are coming to fight in this position, not really relying on their financial muscles, but not really financial muscles, but not in handouts, but will be giving and selling their own manifestos, because people will see displaying such amounts of money in public, because they fear that any kind of goodwill might take them to court, and maybe will interfere with their own campaign or proceedings, and that is a very good move, and I support it. Let's fight corruption wholesomely, because it's something that is making our country blame in terms of development and the morally welfare of our nation.
All right, thank you so much. And Samuel Lay, you're watching there from the States, you're telling us right now, for those who care, Biden is leading with 238 electoral votes, and Trump comes in second there with 213. Of course, the rest of the counts are continuing there. And Professor, still on the same and also on the next point, restricting public officers from conducting any business with the government. This is one of the suggestions the public gave. And I think, do we not have this in our constitution? Restricting public officers from conducting any business with government. We have that. Do we not have that? But Kenyans are saying, can we have that implemented?
Miriam, unless we were talking about national ethos and being patriotic to your country, Miriam. These laws are there, but you know what they do? They go and have their grandmothers
register
their cousins, their friends, and they register companies and they give them business. So on where we have come aggressive with cover for stolen public resources, Miriam, what we want to do, we want to make corruption unattractive. That if we find you that you have stolen with this, we can even take even what you have yours, so that it becomes unattractive. So on this point, Miriam, in terms of public interest, Miriam, if you will work in government, you are a PS and there's a contract in your organization, Miriam, it doesn't make any common sense that, Miriam, that you do business with that organization. Definitely you will give it to a company. So on this is very beautiful, but we need to go forward and realize, Miriam, like now, 30% of the contracts are supposed to be given to women and persons who are fiscal challenged, and even the youth. Do you know of any youth who has done business with the government, Miriam? Of any you know? I don't know any. Karanja will say the same, Wesonga will say the same. So who are these youths? It is this procurement officers, these public public servants who register as company in the name of the physical challenged person, the name of women, the name of the young people, and then they give business to their companies. But this one, Miriam, is good. We need not to debate. You don't need to do business with where you work. And if you have to do that one, you have to. There is no need. You'll be satisfied that we are paying you a salary, and if you find that the salary is not enough, decide go and do business, Miriam.
Mm-hmm. Right, thank you so much. And for the interest of time, perhaps we move point by point so that we're able to cover the rest. I think about 5 remaining. And point number, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? The 6th one, perhaps read 2 and then we can respond as we go together. A digitization of whole government services, which will not only help curb corruption, but also bridge the gap in accessibility of services to historically marginalized and sparsely populated counties. And also the other point, regulatory oversight of escrow and nominee accounts held or managed by professionals on behalf of their clients. And the next point, full implementation of the Bribery Act, in addition to adoption of measures to prevent and curb corruption in private sector. Daniel.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And on this one, I'll tend to be quite brief because it is self-explanatory. Mm-hmm. You know, if you reduce human interaction, like you used to have, maybe if you want to apply for a passport, you have to be physically present at your house. Go there a couple of times, and every time you go from one office to another, you have to part with a few shillings for the process to be hastened up for you. And today you can just sit from the comfort of your home and do the process up to a certain stage. Until then, now you'll just go there to submit the hard copy papers, and the process will be complete within a few days or maybe a few weeks. So reducing the human contact, the physical contact in public offices, really reduces what we call the tendency where people can be able to request for bribes because you don't have one-on-one interaction. You are just interacting with technological systems which do not require you to pay taxes for them to upload your papers, to process them, and to be able to send them to the next stage. So I think that is quite a milestone. And also fixing the laws in regards to corruption in public offices. I believe that is also will put very stringent measures and be able to fix the quite creaky laws that we have currently, to be able to put the civil service quite accountable to their own actions in terms of matters corruption. So I think that will also bring some kind of responsibility and some kind of transparency on how the civil servants serve Kenyans and be able to improve on service delivery. So reducing the human interaction really curbs on reducing corruption, quite literally.
Karanja, on the same.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. And I agree that if we have this corruption dealt with in that kind of from that kind of perspective, then we ensure that the public officers who feel like doing business with government is not profitable enough, they can venture into private entities which are making quite a good profit. Because if we have members of parliament who are doing business, they are the same people who are supplying the government. They are getting government tenders to supply government with some kind of things, materials and so on. Therefore, in this kind of contradiction, that is when they have a room to corrupt, to deal with corruption deals, because they are there, they are dealing with the procurement of public goods and they are selling to government. This kind of thing is not unacceptable. And that will ensure that we have public servants who will be quite focused on ensuring that they are delivering the promises and their campaign agenda to the people, versus to what we have now, where we have people who are working. They are there to work and to deal. They are calling it deals. They are there to make deals with any government institution that matters to them, and they are selling these things to parastatals. And that is why you see some of the big corruption that we have, like in the NYS, it was public officers who are doing such kind of tendering processes, and that is quite unfair, because such kind of tenders should be given to public through a participation that is quite open and transparent. But when we have the same people in the offices giving those tenders to themselves and their companies, that is when we have this kind of corruption even accelerating. But in that recommendation, if that will be materialized and we ban public officers from doing business with the government, then that will be quite fair, because they will have to concentrate on other things, not to root. Because when they do that kind of business, that is when they get room to root even huge amounts of resources from public coffers. And that is something that I agree with. Let's have members of parliament concentrating on one thing. And if you feel like maybe you have a law firm and you feel like the law firm is paying you well, then continue being a lawyer. Don't come to parliament to start struggling things out and working. Because we see members of parliament who are running to our courts to protect people who have been implicated to be alleged in corruption cases, and that quite contradicts our judiciary, because we have a member of parliament who is our Kili, and he is in court representing a person who have been accused of corruption, so that he can make money from that person and be paid good amount. That is quite unfair. We have to deal with them. And if you are a member of parliament and you are a lawyer, don't go to represent these people in courts of law. You just concentrate on your constituents who gave you the mandate to come to parliament. If you feel like being a lawyer is more privilege, then continue being a lawyer. Don't come to public service, because public service, you are coming to deliver to the public. You are not coming to enrich yourselves. And Miriam, if you go there as a senator or a member of parliament to represent a person who have been alleged to be corrupt in a court of law, that really contradicts even the public, and makes even the public eye be confused, because people will be left wondering, did you share these resources? Were you part of this corruption case? Because you are coming to protect them, and you are supposed to make registrations that ban and give punitive measures to corruption. Therefore, let's have that kind of an agenda so that we move on, and we have public servants who will be concentrating on what they took them in parliament or the Senate.
All right, thank you so much. And Alos Parakletos, yes, I'm reading through
Miriam,
the comments.
Miriam,
Yes, thank you. Yes.
On point number 7, Miriam, I see it from development point of view. For us to go digital, Miriam, we will improve connectivity. So it means for Kenyans to get services, the government will go to ensure that there is ICT coverage within the country. Miriam, for us to go digital, it will mean that the electricity will be taken to all places in the country, and it will not only go in terms of having these services, but it will ensure that Kenyans have got other things to do with power. Miriam, again, with digital, it will ensure that deadlines are met when it comes to revenue corrections. Miriam, like now you have to literally travel to go and make those kind of payment. Miriam, it will save time. It will be cost effective. It will offer efficient and effective services because you will do it at the comfort of your house. Miriam, it will even reduce overheads in terms of utilities. Miriam, even in terms of manpower and human resource, it will also be reduced, because now it will ensure that very few of us will be involved in doing this. So Miriam, if we go this way, it is true, and it will ensure that Kenyans get services. In fact, we can see how Huduma services have served this country. This is the kind of things we do. These days you can apply for your passport. Passport was held. You can pay. You can apply for your license. All the services are digital, and as Daniel said, and that's the point I want to hammer, and it comes out very clear. If you avoid human interaction, Miriam, you will reduce corruption. It takes two people to tango. So if they don't see each other,
So
corruption
if
will
the
be
other person
minimized.
is not showing up there to be served, then corruption, we might reduce corruption. That's very true.
And on point of saying that we must have an oversight on their ESCO accounts by professionals. You know, sometimes, Miriam, you get corruption money, you go and give it to the lawyer, and the lawyer will say that this money is for my client. We have had some of the lawyers handling money for Al-Shabaab, money for corruption. We know this. Even you can even understand the Waruke case, Miriam. There's 112 million. We don't know who was paid that money. What you go, the lawyer will tell you this for my client, and there's client confidentiality, that you have to be very confidential that this is for your clients. So we are trying to say, yes, you can have money for your client, but let us have the oversight. Let us know the source of that kind of money. Right. So this is a very, very good recommendation, Miriam. Yeah, because now it will give the authorities, the people in charge, this money for your client. Let us know the source. Let us know how you have it. But as it is now, Miriam, he will tell you this money is for my client, and you are not allowed to go further than that, because we don't have law to that effect.
Thank you so much. One of our viewers there, Alos. I was just saying that, I've been reading your comments, and I'll read some of them there. So thank you so much for engaging with us today. Continue. I shall read some of your comments, and the rest of you who are watching, let us know what you think of these proposals that has been Kenyans give to the BBI steering committee there. So we've just been looking at them point by point, and now the second last point says accountability mechanisms. This is what Kenyans said. Accountability mechanisms to be put in place to monitor on a regular basis those given the duty and privilege of accounting for public resources. I think, Professor, you've mentioned it. Daniel, this is what Kenyans say. As much as these people we've given this responsibility and privilege of accounting for public resources, there will be also an oversight and accountability mechanisms for us to know what exactly are they doing, and are they carrying out their jobs properly. So they will also have sort of an accountability mechanism, and so that we know if that all they're doing the right thing.
Yes, Miriam, the Bible says that to whom much is given, much is expected. And I believe that is the best way going forward for civil servants who are given mandate to watch over the the resources of the Kenyan people, our public coffers, to ensure that we do have some kind of prudency and frugality on how we spend our money, our expenditures, and ensure that our resources are spent on a very, very transparent, in a very, very clear way that can be audited, and every book be able to be balanced and be put on record. So I think that is the way we are very, very open societies operate, very, very societies which are governed by integrity. And whenever we have a system where our financial channels can never be verified, they can never be audited, then I believe that breeds ground for corruption. So a move that will ensure that people who are insured with the purpose of accounting, doing the audits, and being able to balance the books of the day of various government departments put in place, and they're up to the task. I believe that will be a major boost in the fight against corruption, because it will ensure that we have a very clean path where our financial resources are able to be channeled from the very top of the government, the treasury, all the way to the lowest level of the ward and the grassroots. And that will ensure that money is used for the intended purpose, and we don't have any leakages in our financial dispensation channels as we do the business of the government of the day.
All right, thank you. Karanja, on the same accountability mechanisms to be put in place to monitor on a regular basis those given the duty and privilege of accounting for public resources. Kenyans are demanding for that.
Yeah, that is quite a good move. and those people who made such recommendations, they qualify to be called patriot Kenyans, because if we have a country where we are not able to account what these monies are doing, what the governors are doing with the resources that they get, because it's not a matter of the amount, because maybe if you look at for example, the counties that we have, they have been getting the 5% of government allocation annually from the budget that we have in this nation. But most of the cases that we have is accountability problem, because most governors cannot account where these resources went to. They cannot explain where this money, which project they financed, or what they did with the money, with the resources or the revenue that they got from the government. Therefore, these kind of accountability mechanisms that will be carried out frequently and will ensure that these people, even in the public eye, will be able to know, the public will be able to know what a particular leader is doing with the resources that they have. We have the CDF, we have all those money. So therefore, people will be able to see what the member of parliament is doing, what project he has started, the amount of money that was spent, and this will ensure that we have accountability, and it should be done in an open and a transparent way so that Kenyans will be able to see and understand what is happening. I think they should have a kind of maybe even websites where we can go and see from a particular member of parliament what he has done when it comes to matter accounting for the resources that they have, so that we'll be able even to know if this person did not do with this, where did the money go to, and that in that process we'll be able even to know other amounts that might have disappeared unnoticeable, and that will ensure that even the fight on corruption will be more of a success with that kind of things. Miriam, you know that in this country, amount of money, this thing of handling this amount cash money in the banks, and they are deposited without even understanding. With that kind of accountability mechanism, we'll be able to know whether these governors or senators, they are depositing those amount of money in their private banks or in the institutions that is supposed to run the county government. They have these institutions where the money from government coming to county governments or to other institutions are deposited. But we have people who are diverting those resources to their personal and private accounts. Therefore, with such kind of accountability mechanism and kind of a review and the auditing process, we'll be able to know where this money was deposited, when it was withdrawn, what happened. And that will ensure that we have accountable leaders. We'll be able even to ensure that whatever they do with every coin that they get from government, they'll be able to count for it. And that accountability will ensure that we have good leaders, and people even out here, wananchi, will be able to see what their government is doing. And that kind of accountability brings transparency and openness, and the people will be able even to have leaders who will be able to manage their resources if their previous leaders were not accountable enough.
Right, thank you so much. And Professor, a lot of reasons why...
Miriam,
yes.
basically what you are trying to say there is accountability.
Yes.
Miriam, I've given you to take care of my animals, my cows, my goats, my sheep. In the evening, Miriam, you come, one goat or one cow is not there. Don't you think, Miriam, I'm entitled to know where he has gone?
I need to know.
The following day, I just come and find that one of the goats or one of the cow is limping. Don't I have a right to ask? What happened?
What happened to
this is basically what we are trying to ask for the accounting officers. We have given you work to do. We gave you this money. These are the regulations. Are you following the law? Miriam, I think that is very, very, very wonderful, because we are trying to get accountability from those who are in charge of government funds. And Miriam, there was also one point we did not talk about, bribery. Bribery, sometimes we normally deal with the government, those people who are working in government and in the public sector. Miriam, we intend to not deal with them. So basically what we are trying to say, that both people in the private sector, equally they are the ones who want to bribe this government people. It takes two people to tango, the giver and the taker. Action must be taken. And that's what we want it to be captured in the Constitution, so that we know that we don't go to deal with the public servants, and that's merely unfair, And that's very discriminatory when it comes to fighting corruption or dealing with crime, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much, Professor. Thank you. And our last point, or the last point on the BBI. Remember, we've been going through this. Let me just remind our viewers, this is what we've been looking at. It was provided for by the government of Kenya, and it was a special supplement on last week on 2 leading newspapers here, and it is the abridged report, the shortened version of the BBI report by the Building Bridges, task force there. So we've been looking at, corruption today and some of the proposals that Kenyans put forth. They would want to see for our country to win the war against corruption. Corruption is a pandemic in this country, and it is a pandemic in a lot of other African countries because of first impunity, then people just don't care, and there has not been a level of accountability. And we've seen here Kenyans are very particular about the people that we've put in these places, and we've trusted with this we've not trusted, we've given them the privilege of serving us in these positions. They should be accountable, and that is just one of the points that we've been looking at. So the last point on corruption, as it has been suggested by Kenyans and given forwarded to the Building Bridges Committee, the point says Kenyans want laws that compel the disclosure of the beneficial owners of corporate entities where such entities are under investigation for corruption and other crimes. So we want to know who are the owners, because now a lot of companies have been involved. We've seen even the ones that when we see flawed procurements happening, even in the KEMSA case and other cases that we've seen, that of public interest and public funds have been lost. There are other figures who just hide behind, we don't even know who these people are. So there should be laws that compel the disclosure of the beneficial owners of corporate entities where such entities are under investigation for corruption and other. We need to know who are these people, Karanja, as we conclude.
Okay, thank you, Miriam, and I thank you for giving this opportunity. And that will ensure that we have corruption fought from all angles, because at the end of the day, we'll be able to know who are these other people who are not in public service, but they're involved in one or the other in corruption cases, and that will ease even the work of the government, because at the end of the day, we'll be able to shame and name those people who are involved in corruption, but from different corporate institutions that are involved in such kind of a thing. And that will ensure that we don't fight only the public servants, but we'll be able even to go and catch those big features that are in corporate world, who have private companies that are working in cahoots with the corrupt leaders. And this ensures that people will be able to identify and know a such company owned by a specific person is involved in corruption, and the people should avoid it like a pandemic. And that will be a quite good move, because this war on corruption will be won from all corners, and not anybody or in public service that are corrupt. And if we go that, we ensure even the banks that were used to bank those corrupt proceedings, we know who are these managing directors who are own these companies. And in the case of Aisha Jumwa, we have companies that was said to be owned by his brother. Now, that's kind of things that we want to know, so that in future, if that brother of Aisha Jumwa wants to run for an MP in that Malindi constituency, people will be knowing that this person was implicated with corruption cases. And this will ensure that people will have to know people, and when we go for that scrutiny of our public leaders, we'll be able to know that a specific person like Javan Karanja was involved in a certain corporate institution that helped the so-and-so steal public resources. And in that reason, we are not giving him this money. And the Chapter 6 of our Constitution will deal with him. And I will not even be able to run for that particular office. And that is the kind of nation that we want to build. A country that will have leaders who are implicated in corruption. Even in schools, we have teachers who are involved in corruption, lecturers in our public universities. All these people should be named and shamed, so that in future we'll be able to know the kind of people we are dealing with. And they should also suffer such punitive punishment, as we have said in that particular area in BBI of dealing with corruption. And my final submission will be, let corruption be dealt with, and let the public also be the whistleblowers, and let's make this thing a success. If we join hands together, we will win this war, because if I know Miriam is corrupt, and I shout, next time he will fear to do that. Next time people will start following what I'm doing, and I will build a country where if you see a driver giving bribery to a police officer, all the car will board out of that matatu, and they will shame that police officer, the driver, and the conductor. And in future, the police officers will refrain themselves from taking such kind of briberies because they also amount to corruption. Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you so much, Karanda, there for your final thoughts. Daniel, laws that compel the disclosure of the beneficial owners of corporate entities where such entities are under investigations for corruption and other crimes. In other words, Kenyans don't want people to be hiding behind these things. They want to know, once a company has been implicated and is under investigation, there should be laws that will compel the disclosure of the beneficial owners of corporate entities.
Yes, Miriam, thank you. And I've listened to Javan Karanja, and I think I'm 100% in concurrence with what he says. We need now to change tact. We need to make sure that those who are hiding behind those pseudo companies, which belong to senior people in government, perhaps always registered under some shady names, and directors are found to be maybe just the normal people on the streets, the young people who do not hold any kind of clout in the government of the day, or maybe in a particular government department. We should come up with a law that ensures that such kind of information is made available to the public of the people of Kenya, because we are an interested party, because remember, these are public resources, and we need to know who owns this company and how they have transacted with the government or maybe any public institution, and how much money has gone through such particular company. And I'll quote I'll take a quote from Chinua Achebe, who said that Eneke the bird said that men have learned how to shoot without missing their mark, and therefore the bird has learned to fly without perching on a twig. That is how the war on corruption should be, because these corrupt cartels have become so smart in that they use pseudo companies to register to do the business with government. The government also has to upscale its fight against corruption to make sure that there are systems in place which make sure that we put bare the sole beneficiaries of these pseudo companies, and at the end of the day, we are able to curb corruption. That is my part in short, Miriam.
Thank you so much. Professor, end it for us on this law.
Miriam, on this point, I have to say, sometimes people have registered companies and you just go and the file disappears from the register of companies, and you cannot be able to know the owners. And then you arrived at that one. That's why we said even going digital, when you apply, all the directors must be on digital, so that you cannot be able to have access, and so that you delete that. Equally that, Miriam, again, when you say that we need to know the directors, you can have a company and then you embroil the managing director, the general manager, the accountant. So the owners of the company, they are the ones who are getting the money. And then eventually they come and say, oh, there are these people we embroiled, they were the ones who are learning. So we must know who are the owners of this company and who gets the proceeds of the stolen money. So Miriam, this is very good, because now we are not going to have ghost people or directors. We have had a very bad experience, and that's why those who gave the fuse were coming from this kind of frustration. You register a company, the file is there, and the file disappears. And you have got the certificate, you cannot know who are the directors. That is very, very, very progressive. And Miriam, on this part on corruption, what I have to tell the people of Kenya, let us detest corruption. Let us team up with progressive forces, Miriam, to ensure that we fight this pandemic. We have called the cancer. Cancer kills. Corruption will kill our country. Corruption will ensure that, Miriam, that we don't get services. We don't get medicine in the hospitals. Our roads will not be built. People will take money for their personal gain. The taxes for the people of Kenya must go to benefit the people of Kenya and not for the individuals. And Miriam, I pray that we keep sticking to the timeline. Signatures are being corrected, that If these people come across, you give the signature so that we get the minimum, the 1 million signatures, so that Miriam, we move forward to move this thing from the paper into law and becomes part of our constitution. I submit.
Thank you so much for that conclusion, Professor. And hopefully our viewers have gained something. You know, when they were having all these political rallies, sometimes even popularizing BBI there, some of these things that we're not looking at, nobody cared to bring up, you know, what was in the BBI, and yet they were out there popularizing. And that's why I think what you're doing now is very important and of benefit to some Kenyans who did not have an opportunity to get their brief report, you know, a piece of that, and those who were actually honestly seeking to know what is in the BBI, and that is why we're doing that here for the Kenyans who might benefit from this. So I hope, you know, this show today was of benefit to you, and you got to understand a little bit more what some of the opinions that Kenyans gave in line with the fight against corruption, and some of the things that want to be improved so that the fight against corruption can be a success, because we all understand corruption is a very serious thing here in the country, and is costing us, is costing the Kenyan taxpayer, is costing the common man in this country. And so it is a very important thing that if fought successfully, we shall all benefit and our country shall be better. Jevan Karanja from Nanyuki, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Professor and Wesonga. And to our viewers who always tune to listen to us, it's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. And Daniel Wesonga, also from Nairobi, thank you so much also for your time.
Yes, thank you, Miriam, at our headquarters in Nairobi, Professor Jared Onyeri Javan in Nanyuki, and of course our viewers who always tune in to follow the conversation. Have a good day. Thank you.
All right, and thank you so much, Professor Jared Onyeri. Thank you, sir. All right. Very well, and thank you, our viewer, for watching. This has been the People's Court, and we have been looking at the BBI, and we will continue to look at the BBI point by point so that we are able to all get enlightened on what really is the content of the BBI draft, the second draft that was presented to President Uhuru Kenyatta last Monday. All right, thank you so much for watching. My name is Bbi Mogutu. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.